Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. I'm also the author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Life. So if you want to find a step-by-step guide to doing that, please pick up my book. It's simple, easy, and it has really cool stories in it. Anyways, my guest today is Laura Saltman. Hi, Laura.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm just going to read your bio so people know more about you. Laura Saltman is a mindfulness meditation metaphysical teacher, a 4-time author of the Wisdom of All series. She went from red carpet reporter to Hollywood healer, working as a trusted spirit advisor to celebrities, CEOs, influencers, showrunners, PR execs, artists, doctors, coaches, and other healers to understand their infinite truth, utilizing her abilities as a channel, medium, spirit translator, Reiki master, and energy aligner. She is also an Emmy nominated correspondent host who has been seen on Designing Spaces, Access Hollywood, E! News, ET, Insider, Fab Life, Chelsea Lately, CNN, MSNBC, and Showbiz Tonight. Well, welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Well, thank you for having me. I know it's so funny when you hear somebody talk about you. I'm like, I did all those things. Oh yeah, I did do all those things, didn't I?
Yes. And we'd like to know how you got to be doing what you're doing now. So tell us your story.
So I started out, always wanted to work in the entertainment industry. I really wanted to interview celebrities. It was my goal in life. And through some hard work and determination and massive amounts of ambition, I was able to create that for myself. And then I was there for about 17 years. And as you grow up and evolve, things change. And I had unfortunately lost my brother to cancer and then my dad from suicide. And that just sent me on a journey of transformation, transforming myself, trying to uproot some of my depression that I was going through, and obviously grief and sadness. And it just sent me on a healing journey. And from there, once I got there, it just wasn't my, I don't want to say passion, because I still really love entertainment. I mean, I consume it every day and I love TV and movies, but it just didn't serve me in the way that it had served me when I was younger. So I just started a new path, and I'm still figuring that all out for myself even now, because, you know, life changes and you change. So I feel like I'm in a transitional phase of my life again too.
Interesting. So a new chapter opening right before our eyes.
Yep, exactly.
That is exciting. So tell us a little bit more about this second half of life where you started becoming a channeler into Reiki and those different things. Not everyone understands all those words I just read. So why don't you describe what it is you do?
So I started about 9 years ago, and while I was trying to work through my grief, I worked with this spiritual life coach, and she really helped me understand myself on a more spiritual level. She helped me through my grief. And I just remember sitting there and saying to her that I really wanted to do what she did. I felt she had helped me so much, and I really wanted to help other people. So from there, I just started, like, I would say I put myself through spiritual college, is the way I would talk about it. And I just consumed everything that had to do with spirituality, every book, every webinar, anything that was interesting to me, audiobooks I listened to, and Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, all of them. And not just like in the way that like here or there, but literally every day of my life. And I have been for like 9 or 10 years now. I still read A Course in Miracles. I still, watch videos on Hay House. And from that point, I decided that I really wanted to discover it for myself, because, you can read a million books that somebody else wrote, but if you really want to know your own inner truth, you have to find it for yourself. So I started journaling, and journaling was very cathartic for me, obviously with the loss of my brother and my dad. But I also realized during the journaling phase that like these profound insights and wisdom were starting to come to me. So one night in the middle of the night, very similar to the story that Neil Donald Walsh will tell about how he wrote Conversations with God, I just woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't sleep, full of anxiety and depression. and my life was a mess. And I just started asking questions. And then sure enough, the answers started coming back to me. And 6 weeks later, I had an entire book of just like a question and answer. And it was like a direct translation. I didn't change anything. I even like sent it to a copy editor and I said, you're not allowed to change a word. You're only allowed to switch the grammar if that's wrong, or add parentheses, whatever it needed grammar wise. And then from there, I was like, I thought I was done. And then I wrote another book in 2 or 3 months. And then I wrote a third book in a year. And then 2 years later, I had a fourth book, all from this direct channeling. And the insights were so profound and like nothing that I thought, not the way I thought, not the way I believed, and every word perfectly placed and in context. And when I go back now and read them, years later, I realize how truly perfect they are and how every word really has its place where it is, its meaning. And I start to understand more of what I didn't understand when I first wrote it. Like I didn't get some of the things that were being said to me. And now I go back and I'm like, oh, okay, I totally get that, because you have to ascend to that level where you can understand what is being brought through you. So that was kind of like the first part of my journey, was writing the books. And then from there, I was always interested in like mediumship and tarot and oracle and things like that. And I just started like, I have literally behind me, I must have like 30 tarot decks. And I started buying like all these tarot decks and reading for friends and family. And then people were like bawling and crying, and I was getting all this information right. And I was like, oh, okay, let me see if I can do this. So I started doing it for clients, and then that sort of spiraled. And then the mediumship that I always kind of knew I had since my early 20s started to unfold more. And then I started direct channeling. So direct channeling is like when you have someone, either a spirit or an entity or someone on the other side who's coming through, as well as lots of people channel different collectives. They channel like Esther Hicks from Law of Attraction channels Abraham. And I just channel the higher consciousness, the all. That's what my books are called, the all. So the all that is. I'm channeling the one mind, and I do it every day. So every single day for the last 3.5 years, I channel a quote. And then even that's unfolding, where now I'm channeling numerology, and I'm channeling exercises from the Akashic records for us to do every day. So it just keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And it's really fascinating how it all works.
Wow. So the big question I have for you is, what were the questions that started this waterfall of words and, wisdom flowing?
I think it's the questions we all ask. I mean, what is the meaning of life? Why are we all here? Why does the universe let terrible, awful things happen? Why does God let children, die, go hungry? Why are there wars? Why can't we get along? Why do we separate ourselves? Why does it matter who you love? Why do we care about the colors of our skin? I mean, everything was why? Trying to understand why this planet, this world was seemingly such a mess. So that's really, really I started, but it really started from my own drama, that I had my own personal drama, and I was trying to figure out my personal drama. And once I started getting answers, it kept morphing into those big, big, big questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot of people, going through grief, losing someone through death or divorce or some other, sickness. Any advice you would give them, or what are some of the things that really helped you during that time?
Well, first of all, it's understanding that the journey of this planet is the dance, the cha-cha between love and fear, that we're here on this planet to learn about unconditional love, and that's through the lens of fear. So this is a yin and yang planet. So whatever is showing up in our life is to push us back into unconditional love. It's to remind us who we truly are. So if you can start there by looking at every situation that you go through, no matter what it is, in that sense of like, what is this trying to teach me or show me? Then that's a starting point from there. And then from there, you get to say like, okay, I need help. Like, I don't know how to uproot this anxiety or this depression. I don't know how to get over the grief or the sadness that I'm in. And so help is you asking through whatever it is for you, prayer, intention, affirmations. It's asking for help. It's recognizing that we are here as individual souls on this planet, but we are also part of this collective consciousness of Earth, and then this infinite collective of the all that is. And so we have these this other side of ourselves that can help us, that can gift us with the answer. So it's always turning to that, and whatever it is for you, because everybody's in a different level of the ladder. So, think of it like a ladder, and there's levels of ascension. Everyone's at a different level, learning what they're learning, understanding what they're understanding. I call it like the amnesia of the soul. And how much of that amnesia have you been able to uproot? So everyone is just understanding it. So what does that look like for you? If it looks like getting down on your knees and praying to God, then do that. If it's you recognizing and understanding your unity with God, fantastic, do that. If it's you recognizing and understanding that you are an individual consciousness, but also the one mind, and you tap into the one, the all, then do that. But it is asking for help. I always say the word help means healing everything love placed. So everything that is here in our lives is something that we placed in our path in order to evolve us as the souls that we are.
Mm-hmm. So how do we use fear to our advantage? So if we're going to experience fear and love, how do we take that fear and just turn it inside out?
I love the phrasing of the question. How do we use fear to our advantage? Well, the first piece of that puzzle is recognizing and understanding, being aware that it's there. And then once you're aware, like, oh, there is fear there, and sort of naming it, whatever it feels like, maybe it's anxiety in your chest, maybe your belly has got butterflies in it. Maybe you're, in your car and you see somebody or something, and then you have that fear that, oh my God, what if that were to happen to me? You see someone who's, broken their leg and they're hobbling along or something. And then once you are able to recognize it, oh, there's fear here, then you can use it to your advantage by saying, this is my opportunity to notice that I am in the opposite of that. What fears am I holding on to so that I can uproot it? And it becomes like thought control, where once you start to be aware of it, then you can decide for yourself, is this true for me? Is this true for me? So that fear doesn't run your life, because we're never going to get rid of fear on this planet. That's not the journey of the planet. We're not going to get rid of it fully and completely. It's trying to minimize its effects on you. It's actually knowing that it's there to help you. If you a car stops short in front of you, then your fear is going to force you to slam on the brake. So we also want to make friends with our fear in that sense, and know that it's also there to protect us. But the opposite side of the unconditional love is, it's the voice inside your head that says you're not good enough. It's the voice inside your head that says you'll never get enough followers. It's the voice inside your head that says, who's going to watch this? Who's going to buy this? Who's going to hire you? That's the voice of our fear that is not helpful. That's what we call the ego, right? And the ego, when you're in ego, everything goes out, as opposed to those natural fears, since we were cavemen and being chased by tigers, which is how our brain operates. So it's just trying to get a handle on understanding what your fears are and how to work with them.
Nice. And you work with people from really all walks of life. When I was reading, when people come to you, what is it they're wanting from you, and how do you help them?
So I work with people, and again, go back to the ladder example. It's like in various stages of learning and unlearning, at various stages of the ladder. Some people come to me and they're just seeking to be connected to somebody on the other side. Someone has crossed over, their parent, their grandparent, loved one, their ex-boyfriend, whatever it is, a child, and they come and they're seeking connection to the other side. Some people come seeking because they want to know what's in that soul contract. They're in their Akashic records, what's inside of it. A lot of people come to me because they want to know what happened in their past incarnational lives. Like, what other things am I moving through? Some people come to me because they're struggling with anxiety and depression or grief. And these are things that I relate to. And when I work with people, it is incredibly intuitively. I'm either channeling messages for them, I'm channeling exercises for them, I'm bringing forth their loved ones in spirit, I'm talking to angels and guides and messengers, whatever your words for those things are, who are coming in to help us. And that's really what I've learned is, even though we are here on this planet and it feels like we're all alone, we're not alone. We are constantly being guided by animals. We're constantly being guided by signs and messages. We're being guided by the songs on our radio. It's all there to remind us that we are love, that we are the spark of the divine, this divine consciousness that lives within all of us.
That is so true. If we just look, listen, feel, there's so much support around us. But I've also been in that situation where I feel alone. And you forget that it's all still there, whether you realize it or not.
100%. I was just thinking about this today. So my son was sick, as you know. I had to cancel last week. And it was just a really difficult week. It's when you're sick, fine. But when your child is sick, you just feel it differently. And I just really was having a hard time with it. And it just kind of sent me into this like spiral of anxiety and depression for myself for whatever reason. And also, planets energetically, Mercury in retrograde, those type of things, which I think can sometimes have an effect on us as well. And I really felt disconnected from spirit. I really just was like, where's the signs and messages? Where's the help that I'm seeking? And it didn't feel as if it was there, even though maybe it was there. I just was in such a distraught place that I wasn't noticing it, or I was like doing distractive things where I was watching television to distract myself. I wasn't doing the things that sort of opened that up. So yesterday I was sitting out on my patio and I was reading one of my all books, and I just had a moment to myself, and I was like, oh, I just need help. I need to figure out my next steps in life. I feel like I'm in a transition. What is that going to look like for me? And then I swear I closed my eyes for an instant, and all of a sudden I look and there's a snake. And I was like, transformation. Thank you. And it just was like right then and there, I was like, yeah, you know what? Spirit is always going to send me the signs and messages. It's just what state of being am I in to actually recognize that? And I really do believe we're always getting them. It's just sometimes we're so wrapped up in our fear, or we're so distracted by social media and work and all the chaos and the news that we just aren't actually noticing them, that they're there, but they're there. Trust me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And when you were talking about the Akashic records earlier, I was thinking, if people want to know what's in them, because they want to kind of understand why things are happening, but knowing that, does that change the way they look at life, or does it change the way can they actually change things in their life by looking at them?
I believe so, because it can give you the themes of your life. It's like you go back and then you realize why you were the way you were, why you treated yourself that way, why you treated somebody else that way. When you start to recognize what spirit would call your life driving themes are. So what are you here to learn? Are you here to learn about worthiness? Are you here learning patience? Are you here learning humility? Maybe you're here to learn about vulnerability. Maybe you're here to learn about loss. And so once you can start, maybe it's abandonment that you're learning about. Once you know what you're here to learn, then you can sort of like weed back and notice the patterns of your life. And then from there, you can go and look at like, oh, maybe I keep creating the same relationship over and over again, not realizing it's like a different cast of characters, but I'm doing the same thing. And then once you realize I haven't learned the lesson, that's when the power of choice is really there for you. Because once you're aware of everything going on around you, you can say, oh, you know what? Maybe it's time to make a different choice. This hasn't been working for me in the past. And if I'm here to learn about vulnerability, and I've never been vulnerable in any of my past relationships, what if with this one person, I'm just completely vulnerable and I say what I feel? And then guess what? You'll get a different result because now you've learned the lesson. So I really believe learning about our Akashic records, our soul contracts, life driving themes, whatever it is, can be so incredibly powerful.
Wow. And then I had a question, we were talking about your son, and you're a fairly new mom. He said he's 11. So do you think you parent differently because of your experiences than you would have before all this happened and all this awakening for you? And what things do you think that would have changed?
100% differently. So in the beginning years, I was fully asleep and things were happening in my life and I had no idea. And I was doing things chaotically and running, him ragged to the ER if something happened, and I just completely differently. And even in the beginning years of the awakening, I still didn't have it all figured out. And I don't have it all figured out. And I will not have it all figured out because we're really all just kindergartners on this planet. But I do have access to more information. And a lot of this is in my all books too, about parenting and how we can be helping our children. So I would say about the age of 6, so now it's been 5 years, is when I really shifted the way that I was speaking to him, how I reacted to things. I'm very open with him. I try not to filter it, and I try to let him know the things that I do in the world. We speak, we use the term the universe because that seems to work for him. We talk about if he's scared or if he's having fear, ask for help. If he's not feeling well, when he wasn't feeling well last week, we did all the doctor things, went to the doctor, took some of the doctor medicine, but in the same vein, we were doing Reiki, we were doing prayer, we were doing crystals. He literally was like surrounded by crystals on the bed. And because he's grown up with it since the age of 5, he really gets it. He doesn't think it's woo-woo as many, adults would. Children are very open until we start to shut that down with him. So he's incredibly open to all of these things. And it comes down to what you believe. So if we start young with our children and we teach them that these modalities work and they believe that they work, then we're going to start to see these miracles begin to happen. So sometimes he gets annoyed though, just the flip side of that. Like he's like, the universe pisses me off. And like he'll say something like that, like, the universe hates me if something happens, like he stubs his toe. The universe, why do you hate me, universe? So he'll use it in that way. It always makes me laugh. But it's really fascinating how, especially like with grief and sadness and death and loss, and I'm very open about that. It doesn't frighten him that mom talks to dead people, that I'm a medium, that, we have spirits that will come in. He doesn't get scared because I've just taught him that that's a normal part of life. And so I hope that he'll continue with that and not have, the world and adults squash that out of him.
All right. Thank you. And then I had a question that you had sent me on your questionnaire. Our desires are there for a reason. We already decided for them in spirit. Talk about that.
Yeah. So this is what you already possess in spirit. So the desires that we desire in earnest, whether if you want to be a baseball player, if you want to win an Oscar, if you want to win a gold medal, you want to be a triathlete, whatever you want to be, is often guided by what you came here to learn as a soul. What did I choose in those soul contracts? And so when we have these deep desires, especially like when you want to be a parent and you want to have children and you feel it so deeply, and then you struggle with it because, maybe you're having fertility issues, maybe your age, whatever it is, it's not realizing that the deep desire that you feel to be that parent comes from the fact that you already sort of put it in your spirit and your soul contract and said, when I come to earth, these are the things that I want to show up in my experience. But because this is a planet of free will between love and fear and choosing between, there's many times that those desires that we desire in earnest won't show up because we have so much fear surrounding them showing up. There's so much external noise when it comes to creating the desires that we want. And it can be very challenging, even for those of us, I feel, who are in this world, who know the law of attraction and hear about manifesting. Even for all of us, it still can be challenging. It's still difficult when you've been taught since the dawn of your birthing into this particular body that money doesn't, money's hard to come by. Money doesn't grow on trees. It's the root of all evil. You got to work hard. So we're holding on to all these old beliefs that we dragged in from the moment we were born here. And then we've forgotten all of our spiritual truths. And so it's like they're battling one another. And so it's really about controlling the thoughts and getting rid of some of that amnesia so you can start to bring those things forward that already exist. So I just want to put it out there. Like, I do know and believe what's in my book, which has been said over and over again in thousands of quotes that I channeled, which is everything exists already. Every thought that you think, everything that you're trying to create already exists for you in spirit. It just has to come through at a vibrational level and a match to the vibration of what that is. And getting to that vibrational match can be incredibly challenging. So I see a lot of people who get frustrated or even get depressed around manifesting because they're not bringing those things through. And it really, truly is guided by belief. So what really is living in your subconscious mind basement when it comes to that belief? You may say, oh, my intention is to create $1 million. And you may think that, oh, that's spirit said I can do that. It already exists in spirit. It's coming to me. But if you don't really truly believe at the depths of your beingness that it's going to show up for you, it's not going to show up for you, because we are on this vibrational planet where we attract what we are. We are magnets to what we're thinking and believing. So it's really a journey that we're on every single day to work towards uprooting these old beliefs that we've gotten handed by parents and our aunts and uncles and friends and clergy and everybody else that what came before us. But then it's also about, what do we drag in to this life from other particular lifetimes? What baggage were you holding on to from another lifetime? Because that affects our beliefs and our, I call it the subconscious mind basement of what's going on in your subconscious mind basement.
The basement, the scary basement with the spider.
Well, the reason I say that is my grandmother, may she rest in peace, Sid, I love her to pieces. She was a hoarder of epic proportions, and her basement was filled to the rim with all sorts of junk and crap. I don't know what was in there. And it was a very scary place to go down there. That was like the first image that ever came to me about our subconscious mind, that it is like that dirty basement filled with stuff. And until we actually, grab some bags and some boxes and begin to uproot all of that stuff, it's going to live down there. And it's like haunting almost, where it's like, it's there. So as we begin to do the inner journey that we're all here to take, if that's what we decide to do in this life, you can start to bring up some of those old thoughts and beliefs with you, get to a point where you're recognizing and understanding your spiritual truth, and then hopefully get to a point where you can bring through those big desires. But I would challenge anybody to think right now of something that you desired, maybe as a kid, maybe as a teenager, or even, as a young adult, that showed up for you, that you thought was never going to happen. You had so much fear around it. And then you finally just let it go. And then all of a sudden it showed up for you. How many things have you actually created in your life? Well, you've really created all of them. But when you start to look back and realize, oh, I did create that. Oh, I did have that dream. And that did show up for me. And what's not showing up for you? So if you think of all the things that you had previously created showing up for you, then what's stopping you from creating the next thing? Those things can show up for you. You just have to get to that vibrational match to it that will allow it into the physical.
So I want to ask kind of a opposite question. So there are some people in life that they seem like they're just kind of floating through. They don't seem to have any strong desires. They're just floating through. Some are happy, some are not. But what's happening with that? Why is it they don't have something that they're going towards, or something that motivates them?
Well, I think it goes back to, what were they here to learn about? What purpose did they give themselves to come here? It's like, if you're here and you're in your physical body, I really believe that you came for a reason, and the reason being to uproot whatever fears that you have. And fears has all sorts of different subsets, and you gave yourself this lifetime. So there's probably something in that soul contract that says, this is what's happening. And then I also think on the flip side that some people do just give up. They just give up on their dreams, and they give up on what they felt was their purpose, because it just seemed like, I'm getting too old. It's not really, who's going to care anymore. And so then the floating through life is just like, I'm just going to exist, rather than try to be intentional with what I'm creating. So this is why I really love doing past life work with people. And when I say past life, I like to say it in air quotes, because there really is no such thing as a past life. It's all happening all at once, but it feels linearly like a past life. So when you start to see the patterns that you have created over and over again, it can really explain to you why you're struggling with something. It might explain to you why a certain body part always harms you or hurts you, or why do you have physical pain somewhere. And sometimes what we carry in our bodies is not exactly something that was from this lifetime, and we may drag it into from other lifetimes. And I've really seen this so many times with people that I've worked with one-on-one for past life, of like that moment of like, oh my God, everything makes sense now, why I am the way I am, or do the things that I do. And what's powerful about it is when you work with people and you know nothing about them, and then you keep bringing up something that has been their biggest trigger in their life, And it's like, wait a minute, how did she know that that's what I've been going through? And then I'm seeing it in other lifetimes. So it really is powerful. So think of everybody as if you came to this planet in this body, as if you brought a suitcase, and inside of that suitcase is all of your thoughts and beliefs. And inside of that suitcase is all of the things that you came to uproot. But if you don't ever open your suitcase, then your life is just going to go the way it's going to go, as opposed to you getting to a point where you're like, hey, I really want to know what's in my suitcase. I'm going to open it up and start unpacking it and unpacking. And that's where I am in my life. I'm in the unpacking phase, and I've been unpacking for the last 9 or 10 years now.
That's interesting. And as you said that, I visualized the suitcase and visualized, have you ever had something where you finally opened something up, or finally realized something, or just looked at something and said, oh, if I would have seen that 5 years earlier, boy, I would have been in a totally different place, but you were afraid to look at it. You were afraid to even look to see what was inside.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it is that sometimes holds you back from ascending and enlightening and understanding yourself on a deeper level, because there is that fear of like, oh, what if I find that out and I don't like that? So, and I think sometimes people will go forward and they'll just keep on keeping on with all of this. And then I think some people will, the minute that a hiccup occurs, they could read 50 books, understand it all, and then a hiccup occurs and then they just give up and they're like, forget it. And then they go back to that unconscious way of living. And I understand that, because there is some pretty dark, tragic things that go on in this planet. Many of us have been through traumas and things like that. But I do know from my own experience that never giving up has its benefits for sure. Even when you're in the depths of darkness, even when life feels like you're being buried, as long as you just keep showing up and you keep asking for help, you start to loosen that tie, that there's bigger pockets of happiness for you. And then the goal is to just keep creating larger and larger pockets of happiness. And for me, I had a pretty great childhood. In my 20s, things were great. In my 30s, things were great. And then everything sort of went haywire in my late 30s. And that's what sent me on the healer's journey. And I now had to figure out how to be happy again, because I was so happy prior. Then I was miserable during these 7 years of my life that just went down the drain. And I've seen that, how even though I've had all these hard difficulties, how I've been able to create these pockets of time. And maybe for a while it was only a day, like I'd feel good for a day and then I'd go back into depression. And then it was 2 days and then I'd be at 3 days. And then a week went by and I'd be like, oh, I was happy. Wow. And then something else would happen. And then every time I kept getting back up, then I would create a month or two would go by. And now I'm at a place where probably like I could go like 2 or 3 months where things are decent. And then something comes along to knock me off. And I'm just like, oh, I got to do this all over again. Obviously still got work to do, still have things I need to understand about myself and about this journey. But you really can create these larger gaps of happiness. And you can create a sense of like wanting to never give up, where it's just like, okay, I know this is going to suck for a few days and I'm going to feel awful, but I'm going to set that intention to be happy again. I'm going to keep asking for help. And then I know that in a few days, I'm going to be, off the cross and living out in the world again.
Beautiful. And another question I had was, does everybody have this intuition? I mean, when we think of like a medium, we definitely think, oh, I don't have that skill, but does everyone have intuition? I know, we sometimes say, listen to your gut. Is your gut your intuition?
Yes. So we all have intuition, every single one of us. Intuition, meaning it's in is your money. It's just most people don't use it to their advantage because they don't know it. I call it the infinite abilities. So I actually teach a class where I teach people how to unlock these infinite abilities that we all possess. So we're all mediums, we're all channels, we're all actually capable of speaking through telepathy. We're capable of so much more than we believe on this planet. We just don't really understand it. But if you go back like, I don't know, 30, 40 years, you would see that the amount of mediums and channels were kind of minuscule. There weren't that many. There's a few famous ones that were out there that people knew about. And then if you look in the last 5 years, if you just look up Reiki master, mediums, channels on Google, you will find millions, because we have evolved as a planet to the understanding that we all do have access to our infinite abilities, which is the channeling, the mediumship. Now, some people, it may not be their jam. Like, they don't want to talk to people who have crossed over. They're not into that. Channeling is definitely an interesting skill. Sometimes I laugh at it because it's fascinating to utilize, and it may not be for everybody. But what I would invite everyone to do is to cultivate that relationship with their intuition, which is that, yes, it is your gut instinct. It's that knowing when things are wrong or right. And then cultivate that relationship to your higher self, your inner self, your soul self, whatever you want to call it, that has the answers. So, we talk about so much in meditation and spirituality, this concept of going within. Well, what does within mean? Within means that inside of yourself are the answers. We don't ever need to go to anything outside of ourselves. All of the answers are within ourselves. It takes time, though, to get to that understanding. It takes time to find the answers within yourself. And that's where meditation can be really powerful. Journaling can be very powerful. Even, plant medicines have been helpful in that sense of finding out what's going on within you. But you have to actually cultivate that relationship. And then once you begin to cultivate that relationship with your higher self, your pure self, that's when the answers start to come in. It's so funny because people always talk about how the shower, they get all these great ideas in the shower. And one of the reasons that the great ideas come is because in the shower, you've got all this wonderful, like, warm water, or cold if you like it cold, and it just feels really good. And there's no distraction. So you can't have your phone for the most part. Hopefully you don't have your phone in the shower. Maybe the music's on in the background, but it's not right there in your ears. It's like the perfect environment for your higher self to come through and give you messages. And it's where you get those great ideas of how you can serve in the world. So whether it's poems or movies or whatever you're going to create, music, whether it's what you're going to do next in your life, it comes in those quietest moments. And that's where, like, spirit can kind of like get in there, like in the center of things with the answers for you. So I always try to get people to cultivate that relationship so that they can understand, like, everything I can do, you can do too. You just haven't got there yet.
Got it. And now we arrived in this planet in bodies. How do we use our bodies with this intuition?
So your body is speaking to you in every single moment, all moments, right? That's what our body is for. Our body is a learning device for the mind. So it's always talking to you. It's always telling you when something is off, right? So we would love to be in homeostasis, where our bodies are just natural and fit and healthy. But if we're in homeostasis, we're probably not even going to be here, because we're here to learn. And if we're not learning, then there's no reason to even be in your physical body. So first of all, bless the body for what it's capable of, but then really begin to pay attention. Every part of our body has something to say. And I think it's very intuitive even in that. Like, if your ears are bothering you, well, what are you trying to block out? What aren't you listening to right now? Who are you trying to block out? If your throat is bothering you, what are you not speaking? Are you not speaking your truth? Are you not speaking up? Do you feel scared to speak up at school? If you've got a headache, are you blocking your intuition? Are you blocking your connection back to your source? Are your hips, do your hips hurt? Like, are you walking through life feeling unbalanced? Is your back hurting? Do you not feel rooted and grounded? Are your fingers hurting? Like, that might be about the details of life. So it can be very intuitive. Your feet obviously are about walking, and just asking, what are you trying to say to me right now? What are you trying to teach me in this moment? What do I need to know? And once you can cultivate that relationship with your body, it's really powerful, because you're unwilling to sit there and say, oh, I'm going to sit in this. It's like, I have anxiety. Okay, I know my anxiety is there. I feel it in my chest. Let me take a few deep breaths. Let me ask how I can uproot this right now, rather than just letting us like move through life, like just barreling through without paying attention to anything that's going on. So thank you, bodies, for all that you do.
Beautiful. So now I have a personal question. What gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
My son, always. My son, well, he's my teacher, so he's here to teach me unconditional love. I didn't know unconditional love until I had a child. I thought I did. I mean, I love my parents. I love my brother who passed, and I love my brother who's here, and I love my dad who passed, and I love my mom who's here, and my family. But I didn't know what unconditional love was until I had my son, until life became not about me, but became in service to another little being, to making sure he was happy. And so he gives me the happiest. He also makes me, annoyed and frustrated sometimes because he's a kid, but like, he just lights up my world, and I love seeing him grow, and I love seeing him be happy. And I wish that for everyone. And I realized that not everybody gets that experience of unconditional love. Many of us who have children can understand that, but there's also children on this planet whose parents are not giving them unconditional love. And maybe they do love them, but they actually aren't giving unconditional love, or they're here and they don't have the parental love that all children deserve. So he's my happy point. He's why I'm here in the first place. He's gotten me out of dark moments too. When I've had those dark moments in the past, before I sort of started on this healer's journey, he was the reason I got up in the morning after my dad took his own life, and I didn't know if I was going to want to continue. I had to get up because my son was the reason for being for me.
That was beautiful. Thank you. So if people wanted to connect with you, contact you, how do they do that? And what services are you giving people now right now?
So you can go to my website, which is laurasaltman.com. I work with people. I teach classes on opening and awakening your infinite abilities. I work with people one-on-one as a medium, as a channel, or just in general, what I call an intuitive soul session, where we just kind of like go in and figure out what's going on and how we can help you. I work very intuitively, so I get like assignments and information for you. And I really would implore everyone that just showing up one time is not going to get you to the transformation that you're looking for. If you really want to transform yourself, you have to work with people over and over. And so maybe it's me once, but maybe it's somebody else. It's maybe going on Clubhouse and looking for rooms where people are, up leveling and upgrading and inspirational. So do something every single day to elevate your consciousness, to get yourself out of these rabbit holes that we can get ourselves into. So whatever that looks like for you. I have lots of services, and that's why I do them, because I always say, when we're in service, we're healing, and when we're healing, we're in service. So no matter if I'm working on my own inner journey, I'm trying to heal the collective, or whether I'm helping others, I'm always in service.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here and for all your wisdom. And I have one last question before we finish. What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Ask for help. No matter whatever is going on in your life, there is help available to us. And that help can look like the external help of friends and family, and tapping into somebody and just knowing that you're not alone, that we're here and we're wired for connection and we have to connect. Or it's asking for help from whatever your version of this higher power creator is, the all that is. As soon as you ask for help, the universe, the infinite, will come in to give you the resources. And don't give up. Even when it feels like you're not getting that help, just keep asking, because you will see it at some point. So if you want to have a happy life, just know that we're always, always, always being guided by this source of all.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me.